Good afternoon. Last week, I had the pleasure of interviewing Jason Coker, the president of Together for Hope. If you want to see that interview, head over to our YouTube page. In that interview, Jason talks about 5 regions that Together for Hope finds itself working most, one of those regions being Appalachia, where we find our CBF of Virginia's Bridges for Hope work. So today, I want to introduce you to the Regional Vice President for Together for Hope Appalachia, Keith Stillwell. Keith, welcome.
Good to be here, Mark. Coming to you from the other side of the mountains at the foothills of Appalachia in Kentucky, Danville, Kentucky.
Keith, tell us about yourself and your position with Together for Hope.
Okay, I am Together for Hope Regional Vice President, as you said, for the region of Appalachia. I've been doing that since 2019, started out part-time and went full-time in March, ready to get out into Appalachia and do a lot more visiting, and then you know what happened. So that's been kind of put on hold, doing a lot of visiting, but I come to it from 30 years in church staff ministry, associate staff in the areas of education and missions. I have a wife, Diane, and 2 daughters in ministry, one in Little Rock, Arkansas, and the other in Macon, Georgia.
So how did you come to know Appalachia? How did you come to love this region of the country?
Well, I'm from Kentucky, so I always had some familiarity with it. But when Together for Hope began 20 years ago, Lexington Avenue Baptist Church, where I served, became involved in that. And so we began a relationship with the community of Nada in Powell County, Kentucky, which was a part of Kentucky's Mountain Hope, a part of Together for Hope. That's when it was the 20 poorest counties in the US, and 2 of those were in Kentucky. And so we maintained this relationship with the community of Nada over a number of years. The whole time I was there, visiting regularly, building friendships, and exchanging trips. We took many trips to the area and brought youth and to our neighborhood to do work with us. And so got to know the work of Together for Hope from the church standpoint, and a little bit about Appalachia through that.
So since coming on this job, what have you learned?
Well, when it comes to Appalachia, there's a long history of stereotypes about what Appalachia is about. Hillbilly stereotypes, often negative stereotypes, conflicting stereotypes. And so there's a lot of sensitivity to that toward outsiders, and I would be an outsider. And perhaps churches have contributed to that at times, in addition to the good work that we've done. But Appalachia is a very diverse place, and maybe some of the stereotypes are true for some people in some times, but there's just so much diversity in Appalachia and so much richness there. But when it comes to poverty, just learning more about the causes of that, it can be oversimplified, but there's a history of extractive industries in Appalachia, where industries have come in and taken out the resources. Most of the riches go outside the region. Some locals benefit a good deal from it, but many get low-paying jobs as a result. Diversity of the economy has been discouraged, so that low-paying job base could be maintained. And so in the meantime, the land has been sacrificed, creating health problems. And then when that industry declines, they're not left with a lot of other options. And so as a result, Appalachia, or much of Appalachia, has become an area of economic hardship. And so, yeah, the causes of poverty, and looking to the future for how to deal with that. Luckily, there are some great organizations at work that understand. They're from Appalachia. They know Appalachia, and they're working to build the region with a more diverse economy and involving the people in the community, seeking to protect the environment. And so it's a complex place, but it can be a difficult place because of what's happened to the economy there.
So I know that you are very aware of the work that CBF Virginia is doing in Southwest Virginia with Bridges of Hope. And I know that you've been to that area. What has surprised you or inspired you about the work that's happening in the Bluefield area?
I don't know how surprising it is, except for the magnitude, but it's such a great model for what we're trying to be about. It began with an asset mapping process. We're about poverty alleviation through asset-based community development. That means we believe that the answers are within the community and the resources and the assets are in the community. So we don't want to come in like we have all the answers and we're the savior, but we look for places to partner and come alongside and help build on what the community is doing. And so that's how it began, with Jason Coker and many local assets meeting together, dreaming about what could be and how we could work together. And so you had local organizations and people like Travis Lowe. Many of you know about him, and he's just an awesome pastor, entrepreneur, and has done so many great things with Crea Company, the college, Bluefield College, and David Olive, the president, the Wade Center, Jason Tart and McDowell County Farms, and many others came together and did planning, and then collaborated with outside groups, CBF Virginia, WMU Virginia, and BGAV. So it was just a tremendous collaboration to come up with these plans and these ideas and initiatives, all working together. So it's really a model for what we'd like to see happen in many communities. And I've seen great things happen there. I'm just so impressed and inspired by that. I got to be a part of impact mission camps and see how that worked. Just a great community. Jason Tart took me way out in the mountains to see his farms and what he was doing with Appalachian farm techniques. I thought I knew tall mountains from Kentucky, but these were tall mountains. As we went out these winding roads, looking straight up on both sides. But that whole experience of visiting there and seeing the work you're doing and continue to hear about that is very inspiring.
So it's interesting that you talked earlier about being an outsider and earning trust. In those initial meetings, we heard time after time of groups coming in, trying to do something in the region, coming in, throwing a party, then leaving. So how is Together for Hope different in terms of long-lasting partnerships?
Well, let me confess that at times I think we haven't been. I think just a warning to me and to churches, we have to be careful that we don't come in and do more harm, that we don't take away initiative from the community. I've been on trips with my churches where someone was kind of pushed away, get out of my way, I'm trying to do work here. And exactly what we wanted was the community to get in with us. And so we've had to address that. And I know a church came in one time and the participants blogged about their trip on their church's webpage. Well, people in NADA, they may be poor, but they have internet. And so they see these blogs that were saying some demeaning things about their community, and there was a lot of damage control on that. So, but that's not the overwhelming experience. But I think we emphasize long-term relationships, going back year after year, making it mutual, where you see what they have to offer as well. And as we've talked about, we've had reverse mission trips, and many groups have done that kind of thing. But what we hope to do is keep our eye on the big picture, the systemic causes of poverty, and really listening to the local people, utilizing their wisdom letting them take the lead and doing what we're able to do with them. And I think that's what Bridges for Hope Bluefield has done.
Yeah, it really seems like oftentimes mission looks like, someone standing trying to pull someone else up to their level, where Together for Hope is more standing side by side, understanding that we're equals, that we have to learn from each other, that we all have gifts to share. And I think that's what I really appreciate partly about Together for Hope.
I could tell just a little story on a young lady in NADA. She lost both her parents before she graduated. Grew up in extreme poverty, as extreme as you would see. And she was involved in the mission, and we like I said, we brought them on a mission trip to Danville one time, and they did backyard Bible clubs in an apartment complex and did some painting around the church and things like that. Well, not so long ago, she posted on her Facebook page a picture of that, and it was her leading a backyard Bible club, and my daughter was the two of them were leading it together in Danville, and her comment was, "This was the moment I learned that we could serve too and not just be the recipients of service." And so, an extraordinary young lady. She grew up. She graduated valedictorian of her senior class. Graduated from Morehead State University, nursing degree. Recently bought a home, and it just doing terrific. So we look for the assets in the community, and she was certainly one of them.
Absolutely. So you also mentioned earlier about stereotypes. When I first started working with Together for Hope in Bluefield, I was given the book Hillbilly Elegy, which I read and enjoyed. And now there's a movie that's out based on the book. Does Hillbilly Elegy give people a good picture of life in Appalachia?
Well, my short answer is no. that it's not well received by many in Appalachia. He does tell a compelling and inspiring story about his life and how he overcame a lot of obstacles in his life, drug addiction in his mother and poverty. But he tells it as if it's the story of all Appalachia. And he frequently refers to hillbilly culture or names negative things that happened in his life and attributes it to hillbilly culture as a whole, as if that explains all of it. And so I think it's been harmful to the community. They have been hurt by it, and it presents those stereotypes that we've heard so often and applies it to Appalachia, blames poverty on the poor. He names two causes of poverty, and it's either bad choices or hillbilly culture. And so the solution is make good choices and get out of there. And but it kind of ignores the systemic issues and the big picture and the deep issues that contribute to that. There's one, I knew you were going to ask this question, so I got my copy. But there's one passage that I think is very compelling. He talks about a college class where someone criticizes all military, and J.D. Vance was in the Marines. And this classmate talks about how soldiers butchered and disrespected Iraqi civilians, how there was just an assault on the people, and that they were uneducated, and he stereotyped all of the military. But then J.D. Vance talks about how diverse the military is, about how they received so much training on Iraqi culture and all the good things they did there and how they cared for the people and so forth. And he ends it with, he called it unreflective tripe from this classmate. And I think that's how a lot of people have understood his book, ironically, as stereotyping a whole region based on his family experiences. And they have responded with the diversity of Appalachia. And there are a number of really good resources to look at. And I'd like to, on my Facebook page, I've written a response to Hillbilly Elegy on the Together for Hope Appalachia Facebook page. And there's some really good writings and resources that give you the richness and the diversity of Appalachia that responds to Elegy.
So,
And a documentary film called Hillbilly that I would watch before I'd watch Hillbilly Elegy movie.
so how can churches get involved with the work of Together for Hope?
Well, you mentioned Bridges for Hope Bluefield, and you should call Mark Snipes and ask him how to work through CBF Virginia. But the Mission Immersion Impact Mission Camp that's coming up this summer, hopefully, and their mission boxes. I'm sure Mark can tell you about all these ways to get involved, and I think there'll be many more with Bridges for Hope in the future. But we're always looking for new opportunities to get involved. There are 3 churches in Western Virginia that I've been talking to and working with. First Baptist Church Bristol, Marion, and Abingdon. And they have been interested in doing some work in Johnson County, Tennessee. And so I've been exploring ways to get connected there. A lot of our counties we don't have many CBF churches in the actual Together for Hope counties of poverty. There are 57 counties that we're focused on, counties of persistent poverty, 57 counties in Appalachia, 2 of those are in Virginia, and 7 in Tennessee. And so they've been looking at ways to get involved in Johnson County, Tennessee. And so we need more of those kinds of initiatives. They've been kind of put on hold lately, but people willing to go to another county. When Together for Hope began 20 years ago with the 20 poorest counties, First Baptist Church Frankfort, where I'm a member, learned about the Together for Hope initiative, and an elderly lady in the church, just a fierce woman, very involved in missions, drugged the missions minister 2 hours over to Owsley County to just figure it out. And so they talked to leaders and explored, and the McGuire Mission Center was eventually established out of that. So we're always looking for churches to partner with us, to do the trips and so forth, but then other churches to say, I want to initiate some asset-based community development. I want to learn about a community and see how we can get involved.
So one last question for you.
Yes.
So the last couple of weeks in CBF Virginia Life, we have really been focusing on advocacy. What does advocacy mean to you, and how does it correspond with the work that you do?
Well, we want to keep our eye on the big picture. The home repair and the feeding and all that is very important. And that's an important aspect of that. But we want to work toward understanding, why are people hungry? Why do so many people are forced to live in substandard housing and cold and wet homes? And so advocacy, dealing with the systemic and root causes of poverty is going to be very important on that. So we want to keep our eye on those issues that we may need to speak up for, to give to those whose voices aren't heard as much. We need to amplify those voices, speak for them, give them a voice in the political system, those who are so much affected by that. And with this pandemic, the economic issues are hitting them even harder. So going forward, what are the budgets going to look like when it comes to the safety net and so forth? So churches and church members can get involved by using their voice, using their political clout that they have. And so I'm hoping we can build a network, a list of churches that have that kind of interest, of church members that have that interest, so that we can mobilize them, make them aware of issues, and then the churches can decide where their passion is, where they feel like they should speak up and make an impact that way.
Absolutely. Keith, thank you so much for your time. This has been great. And we look forward to getting to know you better and working more with Together for Hope and Bridges of Hope and all that comes with it. So thank you for your time.
Well, Mark, thank you. You're a great friend and a great asset, and I really appreciate your interest, your support, your encouragement, and your involvement in Together for Hope and that of CBF Virginia. So thank you all so much. I got to feel like that we can make a difference in poverty, and that we need to make a difference. That's not the kind of world that God intends, that so many are left behind, hungry and homeless and struggling. And so I think we could take serious our call and make an impact in these areas.
Amen and amen. Thanks, Keith.
Thank you.